1802. Queens Royal College Christmas 3-car raffle.
It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics.
Yes!
Gather your family and tune in to WESN from December 1st to 31st at 8 p.m. nightly for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Ah! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug. You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God, so we kind of at a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's being the victim,
right,
or the man who's being the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI, worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really want
Respond to me. Respond to me
you?
how you would respond to me.
The first question I'd ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I am Naomi Macnish. So this morning we are turning our attention to the next generation of leadership in Trinidad and Tobago. Across communities, social spaces, and even national conversations, young people are stepping forward with new ideas, new energy, and a different approach to change. But they also face real barriers from limited opportunities or even the perception that we are just too young. So joining me today to explore this landscape is youth advocate Mikel Campbell, who has been actively involved in empowering young people and creating platforms for their voices. Good morning, Mikel. Welcome.
Good morning, Naomi, and to you and your listening audience. Thank you for having me this morning.
Thank you for coming. I know it was really early and there's a lot happening this morning, but we made it, we're here, and we're ready for this conversation. So I want to begin by first just asking, in your opinion, how would you define youth leadership in 2025? And what does it look like for this generation?
That's a good question. Youth leadership in our current dispensation is dynamic, because you have different types of leaders within our society, and within the youth space, the young people that I'm familiar with, that I associate with, they actually prefer that genuine, authentic type of leadership, one that seeks people, that puts people first, that they are passionate about. Because we have a lot of leaders, but they act the role, but when they finish, they take off that cloak of what leadership should look like and go back into their real skin. What we actually prefer within the youth space as youth leaders is persons who live and walk the walk, that servanthood type of leadership, that leadership that meets people on the ground, that leadership that understands the experience, what actually happens within communities and homes. Of course, you would have the one or two that may not actually fit that model, but the ideal model for us is to have that person we could connect with. So for us, leadership really and truly is something very important, because also everyone wants to live and be at the top.
Yeah.
But the top comes with real responsibility, that sometimes if you don't know how to wear it well, you could either end up abusing the power that persons give to you to lead them, and then people have mistrust for leadership and these things. But I have good faith in persons like Delano Jofield. I see Christopher Benjamin, I see persons like Aldom and Kobe Sandy, and others who are making their way to show us what leadership should be like in 2025.
Right. So on that, with a youth mind, what are some of the values or traits that you think a good youth leader, or I don't want to differentiate too much, because a leader is a leader, young or old, but what would make a good leader?
First and foremost, to me personally, a leader must understand that he or she must be able to be led before they actually become a leader. For me personally, I'm a believer, so my leadership model comes from Christ himself, where that's concerned. However, in the 21st century, we have recognized that leadership requires persons to be connected, to know what is happening. Usually we will have persons in leadership that they tell you they understand, but when you look at their life and you peel the veil, you don't see that they can relate to you. They don't see that they understand that sometimes you don't always have it all together. You don't always have the means to get to where you want to go. So certain traits, being able to be a servant, being able to listen to the people and not be offended by what they're saying, because frustrated persons don't know how to articulate themselves. They just want you to hear them. You must be able now to actually provide a vision to let the people know where you're going to lead them, so they'll understand what the price they have to pay. And next trait as well, you must be able now to show persons that you're also human, because I don't know how you view it, but I believe that sometimes we view leaders as superheroes, and then when they make a shortfall, it's like, how could you? How could they do this? Yeah. Because they make mistakes. And perhaps as well, being able to have that ability to know when to compromise. Because not all the time your way is the best way. So it ties into the point of listening and now being able to have the heartbeat to know and have compassion, because we're lacking compassion. And compassion only shows when we do this nice video with persons and saying, here, look at hamper, look this and that. And a good example is when the Prime Minister of Jamaica was indicating that, yes, I understand that giving to persons and taking a picture to account to your sponsors that you're helping in Hurricane Melissa is good, but now it becoming a papi show, or a local critical term. What is this? Now, where's the compassion? You don't have to take a picture for everything to show persons that you are doing something. Sometimes the best work is done behind the scenes. So that's some of the traits. It's a long list, but that's some of the traits that I would want to see.
And I agree with you. And you listed possibly the most important ones. Yeah. So now, when we look at persons who step into that role or want to step into that role, and whether it's for themselves, whether it's for their community, what do you believe are some of the challenges or misconceptions that young people face when trying to step into that role or to build confidence within themselves?
I love that question, and I find so far for the questions you're asking is real crafted, so thank you for spending time in this topic. You mentioned it before in your opening monologue that being too young. Yeah. In our society, I think within the Western Hemisphere, more so in the Trinidad and Tobago, I think we are afraid of appointing, electing, or giving young people an opportunity to lead. In the States, you saw it in the mayoral race when Mayor, I think it's Zoran Mamdani, was elected at 34, a migrant, not from the States. Yeah. And in different parts in the world, you had New Zealand Prime Minister. I think she resigned now, but she was one of the youngest in the world. You have different countries that are saying, let's give our young people, and names I call it, they were under 40, to lead their country, to lead their state, to lead their providence. And you saw that. Even up the islands, I think it's in Dominica or Antigua, one of those places. You had a young Prime Minister that actually came in, and of course he's older now, but they gave him an opportunity. That whole statement that I disagree with, that you're too young to lead, I mean, that's a statement that keeps reoccurring, and it should not. Yeah. And that now has branches that tells you that, hey, you're too young, so does that mean that you don't have a vision for your country? Because if you're too young, does that disqualify you from being able to have a voice to say something? Right. So with that, that's one barrier. Number two, because that is said so often, young people in themselves recuse themselves from taking up the opportunity, because you beat that in their head so much. Yes, they start to believe it.
The whole wait your turn culture.
Yeah.
It's not your turn yet. Correct. In a couple of years.
So, and then we don't have proper succession planning. And then when you see a youth now burst onto the market and say, hey, I want to take my country by storm, he or she is seen as a threat, which should not be the case. Yeah. But that's the reality, because we not fostering a culture of proper succession planning. Let me take you under my wing and let's move, let's walk, let me show you the roads not to hit. Another barrier is youth. The youth space, and I may be attacked for this, but I speak plain. The youth space tend to be a bit toxic from time to time, because we see the leaders giving off that same trait. So it is hard for many of us now to see that and saying, that's not what I want. I want to do differently. So you hardly see I coming to encourage Naomi coming to encourage me. You more see pull here, and it's a whole chain. So we sometimes become our own parasite. And again, that it stems from what we see.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a lack of qualified persons in our country, young people. From master's, doctorate, degree, we have them
Very
in abundance.
educated young people.
Yeah. So some of the barriers are there. And of course, you know, you can list them, but those are the ones I think that should be mentioned, and we could start to work where that's concerned on them.
Do you think that the social media space or the social media environment has anything to do with how young people lead, or whether they hold back or they give their all, you know? Because as a young person myself, I think social media, it has a big part to play in who I am as a person. Really, we spend a lot of time on different social media platforms. That's how your day is sometimes centered around social media, right? You get a lot of your information, you read, you learn, you watch, that is who we are, I think, in Gen Z, right? So do you think that the social media has a part to play in how we lead?
Yes, a crucial part, because as you mentioned, the answers within, as you mentioned it,
yeah.
we live there.
Yeah.
We live there, and we get most of our information from social media.
Yeah.
And then too, there are some young people who may not want to go and actually divulge their real views and passion, because now the nice side of social media is that you get the exposure, but the exposure comes with persons who would attack you in the comment sections, who would say things to you that is vile and hateful, and it may sometimes discourage you from actually going out there, because when you step out there to lead anybody, it could be an NGO, government, your electoral district, whatever it is, you are open for criticism, you're open for attacks, and of course you're open for encouragement as well. So with social media, I think that if we are to use it properly, silence the noise and amplify our voices, we will be able to...
It could become a powerful tool.
A very much powerful tool, very, very much. And I mean, just the other day in Australia, I don't know if you would have seen that they would have banned the use of social media for all persons 16 years and under. Well, 16 and under.
Right.
Yeah, because they found that, you know, the social media became a social cocaine for the young people. They were subjected to predators online and these kind of things.
Yeah.
What about, if not banning it, but creating safer spaces? Because that's the direction we head into. So you ban them. So if you ban me from something, I will want to go and find a way. I don't know about you.
That's in human nature to want to go against.
Yeah.
But when it comes to that, I think the whole idea of banning social media or kids, because I mean, growing up, I wasn't allowed to be on Facebook, right? When I was in primary school and my early years in secondary school, I wasn't allowed to have a Facebook account, but I snuck on, right? As did most kids, most of my peers. But that in itself, you can't, it's hard to, what you said just now, why not create safer spaces? I think it's hard to create a space that is safe, because really and truly anything online, anywhere you go online, is, you're subjected to whatever is there. You can't control what is put online or what you find online or who you see online, right? And for example, and I'm saying this because recently the laptops were given to the students, so it's currently being distributed. And I remember when I got laptops, and they had the protection on the laptops. And we were not allowed to go on certain websites. We were not allowed to use Google freely or the internet. But everybody somehow managed to get around that.
That's right.
Everybody, right? I'm telling you, I don't know how we did it, but
we found a way.
We found a way, and that is what happens. And that is, and I think that could be good and bad. It shows that as young people, we are smart, brilliant people, right? When it comes to technology, tech savvy, all these things. And the things that we could do when we want to go against, if you apply that to the things that we could do to lead in spaces,
Real. Yeah, I support that. Yeah.
I think it would be, we would be unstoppable.
Correct.
Completely unstoppable. Now, there's if we're looking at the current national atmosphere and how important it is for youth to be included, right? Now, I've seen a lot of, I've seen the youth parliament. I was kind of following it recently. And having youth as part of policy conversations, especially, you know, in political spaces, and I think it's so important, but we're not seeing it enough, right? I know there's a few young people currently part of the cabinet, one or two.
The Minister of AI, I believe,
yes,
he's one of them.
As well. Now, right, so the question out of this now is, how important is it, or what, in your opinion, can you think we can accomplish if we get more youth involved in policy conversations as a nation, specifically for Trinidad and Tobago?
You see, what tends to happen in our culture, we tend to make policy for people that is not in the room. So we foster a culture of making policy for youth without having youth involved. And we have and slowly have seen that being changed. Because picture this, someone who doesn't know who you or I may be, making a policy to impact us without having our input. When we get that policy in motion, it just may be out of touch with us because we're not there. We need to have more young persons within in leadership roles and policy making roles, and for the sole reason of progression, because the world is changing quickly. Sometimes, wake up my mommy this morning, sometimes my mother will call me to say, how to fix this keyboard and how to fix this. It's because in their time, technology wasn't as advanced. Now, if you want to get your country to keep up with what the world is doing, involve your young people and give them the opportunity to be within the room. Because look at this, within our government and our NGOs and these things, you would still have that few group of persons who would not want to let go of power. They refuse to. As a matter of fact, they feel as if they let go of it, the world is ended because only they could fix it. But what about we all share in the same space? What about the real essence of mentorship? So you're still there, but you have persons occupying the position and you're guiding them. We don't have that. No. And the impact of having young persons within the mix, man, you would see Trinidad and Tobago come alive. You would see our voting population come alive because they see a new face. Because persons are actually really fed up of the same faces presenting themselves with the same idea. You go on there, mustard, ketchup. You do this, I do that. But they want young people, a group of young persons. It don't matter even if they're on opposing sides, but you can see that their heart is genuine, wanting that 868 red, white, and black, moving, pushing. That will give us a new glimmer of hope. That will now force young people now to take their education seriously.
Right.
Because you're seeing them having that, when they see other young persons not getting the opportunity, would you not want to be a part of that?
Definitely.
So the impacts is great once we start to step in that direction.
Now, what about the idea of potential grooming when it comes to leaders? And we're looking at, as young people, yes, as we're growing and you know, we're learning, and we're learning from seeing the leaders that are currently in position, right? Do you think that it is difficult, or one of the, and I just thought of this, you know, one of the barriers being that as youth ourselves, we're learning, and there's a potential room for grooming. And when I say grooming, it's that you're training, you have to be very careful.
You're mentoring them.
You're mentoring, but you're showing them your ways. And that's kind of what is, and then you follow through now, and so there's no change. It's easy to do that with young persons. And I think that could be a real problem as a youth who wants to go in that space.
Yeah.
Now, your opinion on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
The whole grooming aspect, the whole mentoring, because I know they do that in youth parliaments.
Yeah.
Every person has a few person has a mentor who's currently a political member.
I think also in the Women of Parliament program as well, they have that where each lady or young person within in that space are given an MP to model after.
Yes.
So you're actually very right on that. In terms of, I can give you my experience.
Yeah.
When I was mentored by Esmond for the former MP for Tunapuna.
Okay.
And he showed me his ways on how he interact with the people and what is required and these things. But he also said, you have your own style. I am showing you what it is like, what potholes not to enter, how to interact and connect with people. And he gave you a framework.
Right.
And within that, in that mentoring or that grooming in terms of how to fashion yourself to be a good servant to the people, what was critical for me is understanding not to lose yourself, one, and two, be teachable. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we're young, we have the energy, and we think that we know it all, but we are not willing to sit at the feet of persons who have been there before for us to get the information. Because make no mistake, I'm not advocating that we eradicate seniors or experienced persons at all. What I'm advocating for is a good synergy, a good ability, the ability for us now to sit in the same room and say, okay, this is the principle that worked in 1985, but in 2025, I think the principle, yes, still stands, but there's a different approach to take. So before, you guys would have probably said, hey, let's probably send a message by a pigeon. But in this dispensation, we have our phones. We could reach more persons with our phone than using the papers. But I'm not going to say eradicate the papers, but let's do both.
Yeah.
So the importance of mentoring, I think it lacks as well, because we have a lot of insecure leaders too, right? That as soon as your mentee is getting a little limelight, you start to question, does that mean that my existence is not going to fade away? And then you start to get that kind of push off, push away. So it's really, I don't know when the cycle will start, because somebody has to start it by saying, hey, I'm secure enough to know that I am not here forever. And if I really love my country, or love my NGO, my community, my school, my church, whatever it is, it will be prudent of me to start to find a group of young persons and teach them the ways of leadership. So I am in support of that. It could be more, but I'm in support of it.
Okay. Now, as you spoke just now about your own experience, so for you again, what was your defining moment in your journey where you were like, okay, I don't need permission to lead, right? Because I know you are very vocal on TikTok, especially. So what was that for you?
That's a real good question. And it's because that required courage. And as I mentioned before, I'm a believer, so that required me to pray a lot and ask God, is this the direction and the path where you are sending me down? Because when you decide to say, well, I no longer need person's permission to speak out and give my views, it means that you are opening up yourself and you are now removing that covering from that person probably who don't support what you're going to say.
Yes.
Because we sit here and we probably have the same, close to the same color scheme of what we wear.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that we will agree on every single thing. Juxtapose that now with your mentor and your mentee. Yes, you're grooming me, but it doesn't mean that I will agree with everything that you're saying. So for me, the defining moment, it became at a time where I was restless. I was seeing things happening, and I said, I have a position on this, and I'm watching persons who probably gray hair than me and older, more experience, saying their opinion, and I saw there were very few of us on the media saying what we think as young people. And I said, if I could really and truly now open up a space where I could say my piece, not necessarily looking for validation for persons to agree with me or not, but say it. I mean, I say I'll be doing a group of persons justice. So that moment came, and I mean, I was shaking. I watched the videos I was going to post and say, ways, but I probably could use some friends for this. I could lose some support for this. But at the end, I saw country, I saw purpose, I saw vision, and I said, listen, if I'm being me, if I'm being authentic, this is who am I, let me put it out there. And well, the journey still continues. Some days better than some, but it all amounts to me just doing what I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you chose social media as your space to do something against the green, right? How do you think that we have enough of those types of spaces, or do you think that we need to create more environments for young people to feel empowered to step forward?
Yeah. I've always wanted to have a space where young people could come and speak without fear of being targeted on whatever issue it is. Because within that space, it will put forward ideas, it will put forward solutions, it will put forward problems that we didn't even know existed. And yes, there are spaces, and congratulations to all the NGOs that are trying their best to create safe spaces so that young people can prosper and do what they have to do. But at the same time, there's always room for improvement. You know, in our trainings, we always want more. We always say this better can be done, and that's true. That's true. However, I really believe that that space, we have to do a greater push. Because some persons are very afraid to speak up, especially now when you see on the national conversation that we look into China to see how we could regulate social media. And honestly, we in Trinity, so I know the station, that Trinity station, that is dotation in my respectful view. That makes absolutely no sense, because where does the common man get to express themselves? Where does the young people who do have a degree as yet but have an opinion get to express themselves? You want to regulate that? Yeah. At what point in democracy that makes any sense? That you want to regulate what we should speak about? I don't support sedition. I don't support violence or racism on social media. But don't come and tell young people, and anybody as a matter of fact, you want to regulate what is on social media in reference to what China is doing. Look at China's culture. There are people who are saying that is oppressive, they want to control the narrative. So if you tend to disagree that black is white and white is not black, then you're done for. Young people, inclusive of myself, not supporting that. Take that and put it in the back pocket. Can't support that.
Now, if you could design one national initiative specifically for the development of leaders or of youth, what would that be? What would that be, and what gap would you hope to fill with it?
I would want to look at that same safe space initiative that you asked me the question about, but make it an institution where it's protected, creating more leaders, creating persons, and not just leaders to be at the pinnacle of any organization, but leaders, because we all lead in different spaces, you know? All of us don't have to be on the television or on the limelight.
I think you could be a leader within your friend group, a leader within your family. It's small,
And for me, I would want to have that initiative done in a context for where country is concerned. So you don't have this great vacuum of who's going to lead us next 10 years, who's going to lead us next 5 years. You could just look at the institution and see that there are a group of young persons who are being trained in public administration, being trained in governance, being trained in how things should be done to further your country from point A to point B. That fills the gap of, well, my hope will be that the gap will be filled in terms of we not thinking, well, all right, so this person stepped down and who's the next person, and the next person is 70 years of age, and you're like, we're in the same cycle. You have no excuse to say there are a group of persons that the country is investing in to take up that helm of being the next CMHO, the next chief personal officer, the next PM, the next president, so you invest in that. It's similar to sports. I find in Toronto, we go, not shifting the conversation, but we don't invest enough in sports. Across there, from small, once you can kick a ball, you probably give your child into that institution in the academy and all they know is ball. So I think that institution for me there, I mean, it requires some work, but to fill that gap of leadership within our country.
I agree with it. I honestly do. I think we need to teach more of just leadership on the whole, like teach what is a leader? Because I think a lot of young people, now shy away from the idea that to be a leader, I have to be super smart and I have to know probably math and physics, like, or be versed in economics, business, and it's simply not that. It's more than that. It's more than the academics, and it has to, just adding to what you said and to your idea, the space has to have more or teach young people more that you don't have to be book smart or
Correct.
be top of your class in school to be a leader, right?
I agree to that, yeah.
So because I'm really big on just helping, or I want to help young people, especially from small. I think it starts from the time you could speak.
Yeah.
Because I just remember situations for me growing up was how could I, do this or try something, or, how, just anything, because I wasn't the brightest, the smartest person. I wasn't at all, right? And I got spoken down on a lot for it. And I always felt like I couldn't, do anything great.
Yeah.
Or like there was in school, I think this is still a thing, you'll have a prefect of a class. That kind of thing, right? Head girl, whatever. And those things were always like the goal and the expectation of, if you are this or if you become this, you make a good leader. And I think that trains, trains young people to think, well, if I don't become prefect, or if I don't become head girl, or if I don't, become something in school, then I'm nothing.
True.
And that has been a constant thing for me growing up, and then seeing other people go through the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that has to change. The culture itself has to open up.
Let me chime in and commend you there, because right now you are facilitating a conversation about leadership and change.
Yeah.
So from the young girl that actually was being spoken down to and wondering if that pathway have not been a prefect, you are now facilitating a national conversation and, hey, that has to change. So that's kudos to you and starting a conversation and continuing it.
Yeah.
That's really good.
And that's where it's small things, small things, your experience, all of it.
Yeah.
Now, when we look at, we are gonna wrap up, right? But I wanna ask you your message. What message would you give to young people listening now, right? Who, just like me, just like any young person who wants to lead in a space, or who wants to step out of their comfort zone, and they don't know where to start.
Yeah. Am I to look at you, look at the camera? Anyone?
No, speak to them.
To the camera here. So the opportunity is mine to give a message. And I would say to the young persons of our country, be yourself. When you overthink what you're about to say or about to do, that's you defeating you. For me, I always go to God, cling close to Him as He gave you a purpose and the courage to speak out, because someday it will just be you and Him, because on everything that you want to do will be supported by persons around you. Step out, take the leap of faith. Don't let validation come from social media. Let validation come from your passion, that when you leave this earth today or tomorrow, you're able to say that I would have given my very best. Surround yourself around persons that have similar passions but in different fields, because you would expand your learning. Step out there, develop a thick skin. Not everybody deserves a response. We just say, don't cast your pearls among swines. And for those who probably may attack you, respond in a manner that shows them that you are on a different level. This is your country. Take charge. Take responsibility for it. Be able to speak up. See right as right and wrong as wrong. Not right for a particular person and wrong for another because it suits your agenda. Let the agenda be Trinidad and Tobago. Let the agenda be that when they speak about Naomi, Delano, Kobe, Elijah, whoever it is, that they say that person lived a full life of passion, authenticity, and they did it for country.
Awesome. And now, finally, what gives you hope about the future of leaders, of youth leaders in Trinidad and Tobago?
Because you and I exist.
Yeah. Simple. I love it. I love it. I love it. Michael, thank you so much for coming out this morning, for joining me on the program this morning for this conversation. And I think this is the start of many more conversations to be had. It definitely can't end here, can't stop here. And something has changed.
Yeah.
Change has to happen, and it starts with a simple conversation.
Correct.
So,
and kudos to you and WESN for having this type of youth center. I hope that it stays here so young people can have a space to come and express. And who knows, not the revolution, because I don't want to be charged for sedition or any inciting thing, but the change will start from here.
Yeah. All right, thanks again. So we're going to take a quick break now. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Three-car raffle organized on behalf of Queen's Royal College. First prize is a Royal Ride Ford Ranger. Draw date Saturday, December 20th at the school. Tickets only $100. All proceeds for the further uplifting of the school. Tickets available at islandetickets.com. Sandbag Lotto opposite the Oval. Northern Hardware, Diggle Martin Main Road. West Star Liquor Mart, Moncoco Road. Top Office, Belmont. Hearty Foods Arima. Charlie's Anchor Cafe. Corner Anna Street and Aripita Avenue. Frankie's on the Avenue. Quasi Discount Mart, California. Universal Plumbing, Diggle Martin Main Road. Woodview, Tragrit Road. GAK Electrical and Plumbing, opposite Starlight. Western Union, Tunapuna. VML Minimart, St. Lucian Road. Arthur's Minimart, Balantra. Alum's Pharmacy, Majuba Crossroad. Madison Bar, Diggle Martin. Auto and Lotto Shop, Long Circular Mall. For more info, call the college at 622-1671 or the hotline at 491-1802. Queen's Royal College, Christmas three-car raffle.
It's Christmas time, and with your family you'll spend every evening watching a movie on WESN. The classics that fill your heart with merriment and cheer as we celebrate together the most wonderful time of the year.
This is my island in December.
This Christmas, WESN celebrates with you as the content capital brings the big screen classics. Gather your family and tune in to WESN from December 1st to 31st at 8 p.m. nightly for We Christmas Movie Classics.
Santa's coming to town! Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Only on WESN, Content Capital.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond
wanna
to me.
respond
Respond to
to
me
you?
how you would respond to me.
The first question I would ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian. outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services, yeah.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Welcome back to AM Prime this morning. So now we are looking at 16 days of activism. This is, 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And this is a very emotional reality, and it's backed behind the statistics of violence against women and girls. Now, joining me this morning is mental health practitioner Amanda Akbar Ali, who for over 15 years has worked at the front line of trauma, supporting survivors of sexual assault, trafficked people, incarcerated youth, and vulnerable families. From her early work at the Rape Crisis Society to helping build the Children's Authority's Child and Family Services Unit, Amanda has seen firsthand the challenges with our systems, the resilience of survivors, and the urgent need for compassionate, culturally grounded care. Today we will discuss with her, her journey and her insights and her call for stronger mental health support across Trinidad and Tobago. Good morning, Amanda, and welcome.
Good morning, Naomi. Really pleasant, warm welcome from myself, Amanda, and the opening Lotus. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning on AM Prime.
Yes, thank you so much for coming on. So I just want to get some background and just get to know you a bit. You spent over 15 years supporting some of the most vulnerable groups in our society. What first drew you to that line of work?
It was a very natural compulsion to want to do that work. I first started off my career in teaching, and very naturally, the young students would come to talk, to discuss, challenges they were having in their families and their communities and so on. And eventually became very clear that, okay, this is a line of work that I want to do, really helping persons in different forms and so on. And then I embarked on further studies from there.
Yes. Now, you describe your purpose as an internal compass. When did you first recognize that pull?
Yeah, I have to say that that it became very clear to me in my teaching days, but also even when I was in secondary school, there was this, as I say, compass or pull to assist persons in crisis. So, for example, if something happened with one of my peers on the school compound while other persons might be standing and watching, or maybe running in a different direction, I would run to the person to help. And I knew, well, okay, this is somewhere that I want to be. I want to be on the front line, helping persons who need assistance in the moment.
Right. And when you talk about, very young children, just 3 to 5 years old, and they're coming in after being harmed, how were you able to, or how did you learn to hold that level of trauma?
Yeah, thanks. It's a real good pointer, Naomi. And I have to say that as a mental health practitioner, when you see persons come in for help or brought in for help at such a tender age, you just really have to forget yourself in the moment and be there for them and meet them where they are, right? So when kids come in as young as 3 to 5 years old, in some of the past positions I've worked in at various organizations, it's about meeting them where they are, understanding, well, are you scared? Are you crying? Do you wanna talk? Do you want us to tell stories a little bit? And just kind of helping them to calm down and then understanding what is the issue at hand and how can we begin to help in very small steps. So as I say, it's about the client, it's about the child, it's about the person and the family that's in front of you foremost, and then you take care of yourself after, right?
Yeah. Now, one of the points that you raised is that trauma doesn't look one way, right? And so what are some of the common misconceptions that people hear about or that people have about survivors or have about how survivors should behave?
Yeah, I feel like I want to break that question down in different parts, Naomi, because it's kind of layered, right? First of all, I want to say that the 16 days of activism really looks at gender-based violence, and gender-based violence comes in many different forms, right? There's physical, there's emotional. We're hearing nowadays the digital or the technology facilitated form of gender-based violence. And really, what happens is even after the episode or the series of episodes of violence is over, the trauma continues in the life of the survivor. And that may have different kinds of impacts, right? So it may impact the person physically. All right, they may experience a range of different medical and health issues, ranging from injuries to different parts of their body, chronic headaches, and so on. There's the psychological or emotional issues that come. Studies show, and I have seen it in my line of work, where many survivors of violence experience anxiety, depression, hypervigilance, and really a cluster of symptoms known as PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder. Persons even experience issues with their social interactions, and that may show up as small as in the circle of their family or in their community or in their workplace and so on. Yeah, so it's multifaceted, the way that trauma appears. And I think that in Trinidad and Tobago, the wider Caribbean, many times people think that a survivor is someone who appears weak, who appears broken or impaired in some way because of what they have lived through. And sometimes survivors present in that way, whether it's children or adults, women or men. But also sometimes there's the high functioning part of it, where persons are very successful or manage to keep very busy or keep an appearance of being what we call normal, right? Or well. And I think what we miss many times is that even though a person may look that way, inside there is a greater landscape of a battle of many different issues, as I would have explained, physical, psychological, social, and so on, impacts of the episode or of the violence that they are constantly navigating through.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when we look at the nervous system's adaptive response, that was something that I saw come up. Why is it important for the public or even professionals to understand that?
Oh, it's very important, Naomi, because if we think about triggers, so for example, if in a normal day, someone goes to work let's say at their office or on the field or so, and they encounter the perpetrator or someone who is related to the perpetrator of the violence, that is known as a trigger, yeah? And suddenly the nervous system kind of becomes derailed, yeah, or goes into hyperfunctioning mode. And suddenly they may experience a range of different symptoms. There may be heart palpitations, sweating, lack of ability to focus. They may really just be scared that the event may repeat or something else may happen. And what is especially important for persons to note, especially in the Caribbean context, is that the research coming out of WHO, PAHO, UN Women for Latin America and the Caribbean all show similar statistics that I think it's in one report recently from a 2020 study, it showed that about close to 27%, which is a high number of persons who experience gender-based violence, do so at the hand of someone who is known to them, an acquaintance, a family member, and a high number of intimate partners or even non-intimate partners. So what does that mean for us when we go to school, when we go out into the community, when we go to work, when we go to events? It means that there's a high likelihood that we may encounter the offender again in some way, not only in person, but even online. So if we imagine what that might look like or feel like, be experienced by the survivor, then that leads to a whole other conversation of being more compassionate to persons generally, because we never know who is a survivor, right?
Yeah. Now, I want to shift the conversation slightly just to speak about the opening lotus, and this because I know this is a space that focuses on these trauma responses, etc. Now, you founded the Opening Lotus in 2018, and this is a practice rooted in culturally grounded care. Now, what does that actually mean? You know, what gaps were you trying to fill when you decided to open the Opening Lotus?
Thanks so much. Really, the Opening Lotus came from this thought, this philosophy that, you know, the lotus is one of the most beautiful flowers of the world, but it grows in muddy, swampy conditions. So just likening that to the human spirit, really, that we're able to embody this resilience, just like the lotus flower, to push through the mud and blossom and be beautiful. And I've seen that in the various fields that I've worked and with the clients that I've had, that people are able to survive, really, Naomi, some of the most heinous forms of violence and trauma, repeated and complex trauma even, and be beautiful and do beautiful things with their life and make great contributions to the country.
Yeah.
I think I also want to say that in some of the places that I've worked, I've seen the gaps. I've seen where mental health services, mainstream, that is, cut off at 4 or 5 p.m. Yeah, sometimes it's not available on the weekend. Pre-COVID, it was not available online. And also, many times it took on a very clinical approach, modeling other areas of the Western Hemisphere. So I wanted to strive to have a practice that brought in what we already knew, really acknowledging that gender-based violence has been around for a very long time, and there were ways that people found to cope, healthy ways that our forefathers and so knew. So when I talk about sometimes when a client has a breakthrough, there's a little bell that I might ring. We know in our culture that the bell symbolizes victory and change, to really bring that about. if persons happen to tell me that they like music and certain kinds of music, then I encourage that to be part of their healing and be part of their coping.
Yeah.
And especially in working with men and boys, oh, it's a whole different technique that's often needed to be able to reach them where they are. And if you would quickly, in a minute, I'll tell you that in 2019, the Opening Lotus hosted a retreat for men. And on that day, we brought men together where they did a hike. They were able to cook together by a river. They were able to nail signs and plant it along the route of the hike with positive affirmations for other men. They were able to have a motorcycle club come in that actually hosts discussions for men down in Point Fortin. Yeah, so it's about tailoring help for different groups of people in ways that we know work. Men are drawn to motorcycles and things like that and so on. So it's about using what we have and what we know to really reach people where they are.
Yeah, yeah. Now, as we mark these 16 days of activism, I know this is going up until the 10th of December. What emotional burdens do you see Caribbean women carry most today?
I would say, Naomi, the word balance comes to mind because very much still, because of many different reasons, social, religious, and so on, there's the expectation that Caribbean women, of course, will have families and have that caregiver role, but also women are in the workplace, women are studying up until the highest levels, sometimes in instances not only having one doctorate, but multiple, and also in fields that were traditionally male-dominated. And I think very much so there's the expectation that women may be in their careers and in their studies and so on, but still having to perform that caregiver and that householder role with a lot of heavy and soul responsibility. So I see many women wanting to talk about balance, work-life balance, family balance, and carrying actually a lot of guilt about feeling that they're not doing enough, when in fact, when we lay everything out, it's superhuman, right, to be able to manage everything. So it's really a call for maybe women to reach out for more help and ask for more help in their duties, but also for community to understand that it takes everybody to keep the family going and so on.
Be more empathetic towards our women and girls.
That's right.
Now, you've worked alongside many survivors in your field who have lived through unthinkable experiences, but yet they found the will to keep going. Now, what has their resilience taught you as a woman, in today's world?
Naomi, I have to tell you that it's one of the things that we talk about as mental health practitioners, that we take so much strength and we take so much example many times from the very persons who we work with. Because when you are entrusted with somebody's deep and personal stories and the many nuances of their journey, it's a privileged place to sit in. And you get to see their growth in very small inches and what that looks like and how it builds and how it's achieved. And when you are privileged to witness that, then you get to carry a whole lot of hope for yourself and for others. So sometimes when I meet a new client and we have that first session and they're very distraught and really bogged down by a number of different things, and I say, well, we're going to work through it together and we'll get through it one small piece at a time. They might find that hard to believe. Well, how are we going to deal with this big problem? And it's because I've seen so many people survive and survive beautifully over time. So, so to tell you, Naomi, when my days feel hard, I think about my clients who are pushing on, having gone through so much, and that gives me a lot of courage as well.
Yeah.
So it's mutual, right? Which is how it's supposed to be as human beings. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When you look at you know, how us as a nation we're building our mental health system, right? You would have mentioned that we're still in our early, Trinidad and Tobago is still in its early stages of that, of building that system. What are the top changes that, well, in your opinion, you believe that we need to make right now and to push that further?
Yeah, Naomi, I would say right off the bat, the need for a multidisciplinary approach to gender-based violence, and really a very coordinated multidisciplinary approach. Remember earlier on in the conversation, I said that the impacts of gender-based violence on the survivor and on the families of the survivor, of the communities of the survivor, is multifold. It's physical, psychological, emotional, social. It even impacts financial, educational, legal aspects, and so on.
Yeah.
So when a case comes before an organization, it requires a team. And that may look like medical personnel, social workers, psychologists, persons who are frontliners in various communities to be able to bring support together. And I feel like that's one of the areas where we have to continue to develop and work, mostly because, and again, I'll refer to the research from UN Women, Latin America, and the Caribbean, PAHO, World Health Organization. And so we see in this particular region that many episodes of gender-based violence, when they do occur, and you look into the person's history and into their family history, many times you see instances of drug abuse, alcoholism, poverty indicators, and a history also of gender-based violence or child sexual abuse. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but what it means for organizations that help persons is that when cases like that come before them, essentially they're dealing with what you call complex trauma. So there are layers and layers to it. So when referrals have to be made to help the person, to help their partner, to help their family, it's multiple referrals, hence the need for a coordinated multidisciplinary approach, which we have established in Trinidad and Tobago, but there is room for more streamlining of those services.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I know the 16 days of activism, it was specifically targeted to women and girls, as it was the 16 days of activism against violence against women and girls. But
that's right.
I don't want to move the attention from that too much, but men are often left out of these conversations. And, you know, I think if we kind of want to pull them back into these conversations or conversations like this, because they also go through similar situations, what are some of the pressures that you see men carrying that don't get discussed enough in these conversations?
Yeah. And that same retreat that I referred to, that the opening Losers held in 2019, it came out of a focus group that I did with a number of men. And a theme coming out of that focus group discussion was the phrase or the question, what more you want from me? And exactly said like that. The men felt that when they feel stressed, they feel it in their head. It's like a pressure in their head, and it's an overwhelming sense. Like what more you want from me? I'm trying in the relationship. I'm working hard at my job. I'm trying to uphold the house who will help with the children. What more do you want from me? And it talked about that sense of feeling overburdened and overwhelmed. Yeah. How do we begin to treat with how men feel? That's easy, Naomi. I would say listen. We have to start by listening. Yeah, we have to listen for what is said. Many times it's not many words, it's very little that's said. And men, when they say very little, it might be testing the people around them to see how they respond and if it is safe to actually say anymore. And we also have to learn to listen to what is not said.
Yeah.
So you may have a man or a young man feeling stressed, and he may say, "Oh gosh, my chest is hurting." And what's happening? What's making them feel stressed? Another thing coming out of the research is that there's a large underreporting of abuse that men and boys face in the region. Yeah, and so they're not talking. So we have to learn to listen and observe what are the signs, and then create the safe spaces. And that may not always be in a clinical setting. That may be in a safe group recreational experience by a river, on a racing track, areas where men feel comfortable to talk.
Yeah. Now, if we are serious about preventing violence, whether it be for women and girls or men and boys, where should we be investing our attention early on?
Well, wherever there are children.
Right.
Yes?
Yeah.
So in the schools, in the communities, wherever there are children, especially young boys and young girls, I have to say both genders, that is where our attention should be. Teaching that emotional literacy, teaching coping mechanisms, teaching conflict resolution skills, encouraging lots and lots of positive activities for children to be engaged in, and I cannot say enough, accessing mentors who are willing to give of their time to be there and support young people. Yeah, it comes back to that cluster of factors that I made reference to. Yeah, so if there is the how can I say, occurrence of alcoholism, drug addiction, gender-based violence, domestic violence occurring in families, in particular communities, now we are understanding particular communities, then we know that these are the areas that need to be targeted, and the young people who are in the schools or in the communities, they have to know, okay, if this happens, this is what I should do. And look at this person. This person is an example to me of how to respond when this happens.
Yeah.
And if I feel scared, this is the number to call. Yeah?
Yeah. What would you say to someone listening today who feels overwhelmed by their own circumstances?
Yes, I would say it's possible to feel better by addressing the issue one step at a time. Yeah, you may feel like it's a whole full mountain on top of your chest, but with the right help, we can take it one step at a time, and you can begin to feel better and to enjoy a better quality of life altogether, one step at a time.
Yeah. Now, finally, Amanda, before we close, what does healing look like to you in practical terms? And then what gives you hope as you continue on doing this work?
I would say healing for me is when you get that sense of when you can breathe. And there's no heaviness on your chest, your mind feels uncluttered, and you can begin to see new great possibilities for yourself beyond the horizon. I feel that is the feeling and the sensation of healing. And I think also you're asking what gives me hope. I'll say it again. When I see people survive, men and women survive really, really serious episodes and histories of violence, and they are out there being lawyers, being the lady in the shop, being the gas attendant, and smiling with you every day, that gives me so much hope.
Now, where can persons find the Open Lotus if they need assistance?
Sure. The Opening Lotus is present on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. I can also give the numbers here. The Opening Lotus can be reached at 299-8416 or 491-2841. And you can also reach at the Opening Lotus at gmail.com. Yeah, if you go on any one of the social media platforms, you'll be able to find all of the information there. And lastly, I would want to say one of the things that the Opening Lotus offers that's a little bit special is very flexible hours of booking. So you can also get sessions late in the evening, also on weekends, and for persons who need it, there can be payment plans arranged.
Thank you very much, Amanda, for sharing and coming on the program this morning to talk about this. The 16 Days of Activism is still ongoing. It started on the 25th of November, and it's up until the 10th of December. So we're still in that window, and the conversation couldn't be more timely. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Naomi, for having me on AM Prime. And I wish all of the listeners, good mental health and lots of hope.
Awesome. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay safe.
Take care, you as well. Bye.
All right, so I just want to, part of our, I know we usually do Feel Good Friday, and I had a video prepared, but unfortunately I did not get the video in time. But this video was just to show the 16 Days of Activism, what the UNFPA did in recognition of that. And a mural was painted in Port of Spain in the Queen's Park Savannah. It's a mural of that was designed to initiate conversation, to display, that activism against or for violence against, that the activism in support of violence against women and girls. Now, this was the UNFPA's theme for this year is Unite to End Digital Violence Against Women and Girls. The focus was digital violence. And highlights the urgent need to address technology-facilitated gender-based violence, including online harassment, cyber stalking, image-based abuse, and digital hate speech. The campaign uses art and creativity to drive awareness and action, beginning, and the start of this, again, is the launch of the Digital Awareness Campaign. And that is part of the 16 days, so that's from the 25th of November. It started on the 25th of November to the 10th of December. The campaign features engaging online content that you can find on the UNFPA's social media, community partnerships, and artistic expressions calling for safer, more inclusive digital spaces. Now, the large outdoor mural was painted on the eastern outer wall of the grandstand, Queen's Park Savannah, and they had support from the National Carnival Commission to get this done. The mural painting was led by artist and muralist Nadia Shah, who designed and coordinated the exercise over 2 weekends in November. There were student volunteers who assisted with developing the design and painting the mural for what was an intense 4 days of learning and creativity. The mural will remain on the walls of the grandstand until the end of December. Now, the video that I will still get the video and play for you guys because it was an incredible video that was so inspiring. It shows the process at which these individuals and these students, these young people, participated in painting this mural, the effort, the time it took to get it done, and the mural is beautiful. So if you're passing the Savannah, definitely go, stop, check it out, and it's something that, you know, will trigger conversation and get people talking about what is this digital violence against women and girls, and you know, what can be done to stop it. Yesterday was the launch of it. I went along with Jada, and we heard from the Canadian High Commission, who has had a huge part to play in just sponsoring the entire thing and really allowing this to be possible. They also heard from the representative from the Children's Authority, who also had a big part to play in this. The Cybercrime and Social Media Unit of Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and the National Carnival Commission. So once I get that video, I will not forget. I will play it for you guys, hopefully by Monday. I just want to leave you with this. The world you desire can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. And it's yours. This is a quote by Ayn Rand. And I saw it and I said, you know what? It fits. It fits the theme of today, our first conversation, where we spoke about just youth in spaces to lead, and youth being the future. So it is whatever you desire, you know, the world that you desire, the world that you want to live in, it is possible, and it is yours, and you just have to really step forward and take charge and let it become what you want it. So thank you guys for joining me on the program this morning, for tuning in, for watching. And we have Sean Michael Small in the hour of 8 o'clock with Talking Point, as always. And I will see you guys back here again Monday morning. So stay safe, stay inspired, stay informed, and have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Three-car raffle organized on behalf of Queen's Royal College. First prize is a Royal Ride Ford Ranger. Draw date Saturday, December 20th at the school. Tickets only $100. All proceeds for the further uplifting of the school. Tickets available at islandetickets.com. Sandbag Lotto opposite the Oval. Northern Hardware, Diggle Martin Main Road. Westal Liquor Mart, Moncoco Road. Top Office, Belmont, Hearty Foods Arima. Charlie's Anchor Cafe, corner Anna Street and Aripita Avenue. Frankie's on the Avenue. Quase Discount Mart, California. Universal Plumbing, Diggle Martin Main Road. Woodview.